This is Siamack Salari from Everyday Lives, and also a small company that we've just set up called EDL Appcom Limited, which owns a mobile research platform called Ethos. Today's talk is all about how we were forced to break our own rules, which is a very, very painful thing to do. In creating a platform, in creating a tool to improve the efficiency of how we work and the richness of our outputs, we basically had to break down our sort of sacred guiding principles, which was extremely painful, and it's something that we're still going through, and I'm going to be sharing with you in the next 15 minutes or so. Now, let me start by telling you a little bit about the way we do ethnography, which is, it's not qualitative research with a video camera. It's not a 2-hour visit in home, and it certainly is not a kind of in-depth interview with a video camera. We go and spend days and days with respondents in their homes, and this is an expensive process. It's labor-intensive. We deal with relatively small samples, which the more sort of marketing literate clients will understand and readily accept. But there are also some clients who just want numbers, 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 and 6 to 8 per market is just not something that they're going to take. And because it's so time-consuming, there aren't many clients who can actually afford to do it. So we are limited, we are restricted, constrained by having to work with, which isn't no bad thing, but having to work with a few large global clients who commission reasonably large projects, but not that many of them. So we are a small company. That said, the outputs that we do come up with are naturalistic. We often don't tell respondents what we're there to do in home. And one of the things that we're really good at, in fact, one of our unique selling points that we've tried to not lose, is this ability to capture moments, happenings, and decision-making naturally occurring, spontaneously, to actually be there when they take place, so clients can see what makes people do the things they do. Now, the next slide is all about a film I'm hoping most of you will have watched. There's a link to it that you can look at after this talk is over, which shows you our process from beginning to end. And we had to film this, we were asked to film this by a client. So these are all real people in the film, real clients. See if you recognize them. I'm not going to mention that it was Procter & Gamble. So the process that you'll see in the film is the must capture list, and then this is agreeing what we absolutely need to observe, going straight into the field, and which is very time consuming and expensive because of the length of time you spend in home, minimum 3 days. And then we come back to the clients. We don't do any interviews at this stage. We come back to the clients and we have a question generation workshop, which is all about what do we want to learn from the observations that we've collected, and let's come up with questions we've never thought of asking before. Then we return to the respondents and conduct co-discoveries, where we show them the films and ask them the questions that we've come up with in the question generation workshop. And we then do our analysis and editing. Now, editing is very, very time consuming because of the huge amounts of data that we have to go through. And also the interpretation and the analysis, which goes with it. So editing and analysis for us is one of the same thing. And then obviously we have the debriefs and the various workshops. We needed to translate this into a mobile research tool. And we had 2 critical challenges. How do we, I was really concerned, is probably the best way of describing my feelings, very concerned about creating what would in the end become just a data capture tool. I don't want to be a data capture platform. I want to be much, much more than that. And also, how do we capture spontaneous moments? How do we capture the things that we're really, really good at? Normally, we would use a video camera and stand there, hang out there, and just let it roll, and what we call fishing. Things happen, things occur. Sometimes we only spot them during editing, but nonetheless, we capture quite a lot of things. And suddenly, we have in our hands an iPhone or an Android phone, And because we're sending the data instantaneously as we capture it online, we're limited to lengths of 2 to 3 minutes of video clip. Now, this was also a big worry because even my own ethnographers who worked for me, a lot of them mutinied and said, we're not going to go in the field with just our iPhones. We're going to take our video cameras as well. We're going to miss all sorts of things. The next challenge was to be able to actually do the analysis and the editing easily. So I wanted to be able to go into the field, capture the events I wanted to capture, come back to my desktop, laptop, and have on the site all of my clips themed and tagged. Now imagine if you're doing observations with 20 or 30 people, or you have a panel of 500 people capturing events for you. Well, one of the things that we created very early on was filtering and theming and tagging. So you can theme and tag your entries when you send them in. And then when you're looking at them on the platform, you can actually filter them by all sorts of different variables, including those themes and tags. And we also created something called WorkSpaces. Now this is, so far filtering and tagging is all about data capture. It's not about interpretation, it's only about analysis. But with WorkSpaces, we started to move towards interpretation because suddenly we could create these folders and drag and drop clips into them and invite people, including the respondents, to answer questions about their own observations. So this was replicating some of the question generation workshop and co-discovery section of our process, which was very, very helpful. But it still wasn't strictly interpretation. And the direction we turned to was anthropology. Now we've always had anthropologists on our teams, and they've always used their own methods and theories to go through the data. But one of the ones that I really, really like is grounded theory, and being able to actually use the data to generate the themes and the theories from about what's going on and understand the systems and mechanisms of what's going on, rather than trying to impose a theory on the data and have the data sort of filter through it. So far we have a lot of analysis by being able to do the filtering and by having our workspaces, but virtually no interpretation. There's nothing to help people actually take it to the next level, add another layer of meaning or thinking to the content using tools that are available on the site. So what we've had so far, for example, is 1 or 2 universities that are using this. They're actually exporting the data in order to be able to do interpretation of it. And I wanted to keep the data in our site as much as possible. So some of the tools that we're now adding are the ability for researchers to define their own tags and structures. So what tends to happen at the moment is the respondents will tag and theme according to tags and themes that we've imposed on them. But there is no way so far for us to then change those tags and themes or add our own tags and themes. There's also no way, there's been no way up to now to be able to peer review our own way of breaking down the data so that we can add rigor and robustness to the data. So creating this kind of flexibility is our next priority, and it's something that really we're working very, very hard on, including the ability to have an algorithm that will go out and search for clips or content that it thinks fit some of the ideas or some of the themes that we have tagged ourselves. And this is very, very hard work, but this is going to take us towards interpretation and away from just being a data capture. The next challenge for us was cracking what I call the naturalism nut. This is all about how do we capture those kind of moments and occasions when we only have cameras that can, or mobile devices that can typically film for 2 or 3 minutes. So just as a recap, the process at Everyday Lives is all about continuous filming. It's all about being able to show those films back to the respondents. And it doesn't allow for very easy journaling. I mean, we've never really given our cameras to respondents and asked them to film themselves, simply because of the complexity of the cameras and also because people aren't very good at filming with those sorts of devices. But give them a mobile phone or let them use their own mobile phones, and it's a completely different story. And we've been absolutely amazed. With Ethos, with our mobile app, yes, we are restricted to 3 minutes, and we also have the issue that unless we actually specify that they use things like there's a camera on the application itself that they can use, people will only use their handheld devices and have very short clips. You can film for much longer periods of time using the application, the Ethos application online. And what we have been really, really amazed with Ethos is how much easier people find it to use their own handheld device, especially in outdoor situations like going out with friends or being in supermarkets, but also how much more incredibly candid they can be when they're reporting things back to us, when they're telling us about situations that have occurred without any prompting at all from us. So the surprises, I mean, the 3 big surprises we've had using this tool has been, you know, okay, they can't fish as well, they can't keep their cameras running, but our cameras are there all the time. We are in the consumer's pocket 24 hours a day, by their bedside at night and with them throughout the day. So they do catch an awful lot of information for us. And there's also new layers of interpretation that we'd never thought about before, which is things like, why are they showing us the sorts of things that they're showing us? So the first level is kind of just seeing what they're doing and also what they're not doing and what they could be doing. But there's a whole new layer for us about why are we seeing the things that we're seeing and why are they not showing certain things. That's really, really interesting. And the degree of openness is quite astonishing. And the next clip on the slide, if you haven't already seen it, it really is worth seeing. It's about social networking. And this particular individual went on to describe far more dodgy things. And this is not a unique example. We have lots and lots of examples of this kind of candor. So to finish, I would say that it's not necessary to change. You know, we didn't need to come up with the mobile research platform that we did. But same token, survival isn't mandatory either, in the words of Mr. Deming here. But for us, it was absolutely critical. We didn't want to be dependent on a few big clients. We wanted to be able to reach those smaller clients, more local clients, who could use a tool that would enable them to literally live inside the pockets of respondents. And now we're on to the question and answer session, which I'm really looking forward to, and I'm going to hand over to Ray.